you know the dilemma, you want to buy a new bike and you can look up all the stack and reach, but you want to know what the stack and reach is on your bike, and also what do you do about the whole handlebar situation? How do you figure out what handlebar to buy? Well, today I'm going to show you a very quick and easy way that you can do this at home, and it involves finding a corner of your house where you can rest your bike up nice and straight so that the front wheel is resting up against the wall here, and we're going to use the floor and the wall as our reference points. And with that, we can now find our stack by taking the measurement from the floor to the center of the bottom bracket. So we are 272 millimeters here, and then the floor to the top of your head tube. Now, a little word of warning, with all these current integrated systems, you'll sometimes see that they've got these plastic spacers and they've got these sloping sections here. You're going to try and find where the center of the axis of the steering is and where that bisects with where the frame is. So ignore the plastic fittings, we'll come on to that later. And we're going to measure from the floor in as vertical a line as you possibly can and to where that center axis is, and we have 831. Subtract one from the other and that should give us 559 millimeters as our stack height from this point to the bottom bracket. Now the next one is reach, and exactly the same thing. We're going to measure this 27.2. If you want to, you can mark it up against the wall, put a little pencil mark on your wall. That'll help you get a nice straight line. So I've done this earlier, or you can use a spirit level, but we're going to measure from here to the center of our bottom bracket again, and we have 946 millimeters. And then all we do exactly the same thing is measure, and you can probably eyeball this because it's a smaller measurement. Having lines on your wall definitely helps, and we are at 550 millimeters. Again, subtract one from the other, and we should have 393, which hopefully corresponds to what the geometry chart says on the website, if you can find one. Now the next thing is the point here. This is the most important bit, the bit that we're most worried about, is because that's great, we can work out our frame size, but you know, what length handlebar do we need? How many spaces are we going to need? What sort of rise are we going to need? And that's where things get complicated. So I'm going to come back to this, but first we've got to do some sums. Okay, we've got some sums to go through. Now, I already kind of know these measurements, and I'm now going to show you how to reverse engineer that so you know what handlebar, etc. you might want to buy. So we know the reach and the stack from either the measurements we've just taken, or you're looking at the geometry charts of your new bike. We also know the stem lengths that are available to us. In this case, we're going to work on 110 millimeters and a 6 degree. The thing that is slightly tricky is the spacer amount. So you might have seen that I had 25 millimeters of actual spacers. There's an additional 21 millimeters of that little top cap and any other peripheral bits and pieces. And depends on where you measure, you might need to measure to the center of the bolts. That should be fairly clear in the instructions of your handlebars. If it isn't, you're going to have to estimate it a little bit, but this is what we're working on. So first of all, we need to work out what the effective angle is. We take our 90 degrees, we take away the head angle, which hopefully should be on your geometry charts, in this case 72.5 degrees, and we add the stem angle, which is 6 or minus 6. So essentially we have 17.5 minus 6 gives us 11.5 degrees. So from that we can work out how much our stem is going to project beyond the reach here. So we take our 110, we times that by the cosine of 11.5, and we get 108 millimeters. We take that base reach, so we now know that we've got that 108 plus our 393 gives us 501. But then we need to consider that as we add spacers, that stem actually comes closer to us. So we have our spacer setback. So we have our 46 millimeters of spacers times the cosine of the head angle, 72.5, gives us 14. So we take that away and we get 487, which should be the position of our handlebar. Remember that number, we'll come back to it. When we come back to the stack, similar sort of thing. So we know that our stack is 559, but we want to know where our handlebars. So we need to know the spacer rise is 46, but we need to times that by the sine this time of 72.5 is going to give us only 44. It makes a relatively small amount of difference. and how much that stem rises as well. So 110 times the side of 11.5 gives us 22. Add all that together and we have 625. Now, if you have a Wilier, great, because they have something called Accu-Fit and have these incredible charts like this where you can look it up. So hopefully, if I've got all my sums right, I should be here a size large with 25 millimeters of spacers. It actually gives us 486 and 626. So I'm a tiny little bit out, just by a couple of millimeters with my measurements, close enough to make a pretty sound decision on what stuff to buy. So does that work if I then go back and measure the bike? So when it comes to working out your handlebars, you're going to have to somehow visualize the center, especially if you've got aero bars. It can be quite challenging to work out where the center is. So we're going to take the center of the bar down to the floor, and we have 8, 9, 7. With our reach, we are going to find the center of the bar, which is 4, 5, 5. And again, we subtract that from the bottom bracket measurements, and we should get to 456 and 626. There we go. Hope that was dead useful. Your bike fitter will love you if you know how to measure your own bike from that. Now, the next question is obviously, how do you then apply those equations to make sure you're going to be buying the right handlebar stem setup? Well, I've put all those equations for you on a blog post that corresponds to this video, so you can go through it at a slower pace. Essentially the same way, you just reverse engineer the equations. Hopefully this video was dead useful. Make sure you get the right bike for you. And if you're commissioning a bike with us, we will do all this work for you as well. And if that's your bag, get in contact via all the links below, WhatsApp, email, it all works. Look forward to hearing from you.